Very good morning to you all. Actually, not the one supposed to be speaking, but the president of the academy is a bit under the weather, so he can't be here with us. Even me, as you can see, if you live in Accra, black and white like this, you know where I'm going from here. Professor Techua Menu says I'm in Accra uniform. That is for funeral. The vice president of the academy and fellows, invited participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the president of the academy, I am happy to welcome all of you here. We are grateful that you could make time to be here today and hopeful that our time together will provide some stimulating thoughts for policy formulation in the higher education space. Let me acknowledge all of the participants from our public and private universities, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, Ministry of Education. Sometimes we have people from Bank of Ghana, Access Bank, Association of Ghana Industries, and Ghana Employers Association. I'm not sure if they're all here, but they're so welcome if they are on their way. Now, the goal of the Academy's Higher Education Project is to provide a platform for independent persons and groups to reflect on the challenges of the higher education subsector on a regular and sustained basis. We hope to bring together different stakeholders to undertake reviews of current policies and inject independent research evidence to inform new policy considerations. Our forums and platforms can also provide a safe space or sounding board to explore emergent higher education policy issues. Above all, we want to facilitate consensus building through open and objective discussion of higher education policy. Today, we're going to conduct a policy dialogue on expanding public universities, the effect on access, quality, and sustainability. And we are bringing together a number of people to assess and brainstorm on the subject matter. The background paper will set the tone for the deliberations, and this will be followed by a review of the paper, panel discussion, and finally, an open forum. The Academy expects that what we deliberate on and capture here can serve as a basis for innovative reforms. It is also our expectation that this policy dialogue will offer greater opportunities for the participants or their organizations to collaborate with the Ghana Academy on projects of mutual interest going forward. So please kindly involve yourselves in the deliberations and participate fully. I wish all of us fruitful deliberations, and you're welcome once again. Thank you. Whilst I'm here, may I invite the project director, who is going to be the moderator for this, Professor Emerita, Professor Techua Menu, to take up from here. But before she steps up, we will take a group photograph. Or well, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Tego, for welcoming us all to the program. Would like to receive a brief remark from Professor Ahmed Jinapor, the Director General for Ghana Tertiary Education Commission.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm not Professor Ahmed Jinapor, the Director General himself, but I represent him here. And unfortunately, I'm not aware we have to give a brief remark, but I'm here. So once I'm here, I will give a brief remark on behalf of my Director General, Professor Ahmed Jinapor. Yeah, it is with great pleasure and honor that we are here today on this occasion of the Academy. This gathering marks a significant milestone and a moment for us to come together, share insights, and strengthen the bonds that unite us to propel our excellence in tertiary education. As we gather here, let us reflect on the theme, expanding public universities, effects on access, quality, and sustainability. This theme reflects what we all stand for in Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. And as we go ahead to facilitate the topic, and as we engage much more to have insight onto these
Hello. Yeah, so it's a bleak day, but we will try and liven things up here. And without much ado, we're going to go into the technical session where we will have, as Professor Tego told us, the presentation of the background paper to be led by Professor Mrs. Christine Eduyeboah of the University of Cape Coast and her team. And then we'll have the review of the paper, one on site and one recorded video before we move on to the panel discussion. So thank you once again for joining us, and especially to our out-of-town participants. And for those who are joining us, not just for the first time, but for the second time. So I want to invite Professor Christine Eduyeboah to come up here. And you will have more or less 30 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Prof. And good morning, distinguished personalities. I wish to use this opportunity to thank Emerita Professor Kwame, whom I've cited a couple of times in my own work. And she contacted me for this project, and we've come a long way in the last 1 year. And here we are. So thank you very much, Prof, for this opportunity. And on behalf of my colleagues, 3 of us who did this work, Dr. Adam Yunus, please can you, yes, let them see you, and Lydia, Dr. Lydia Danchi. Thank you so very much. So our topic, as has already been announced, is expanding public universities' effect on access, quality, and sustainability. And I believe that it's a very important subject. I believe we all here are here because we've had university education or some form of higher education. And if we've gone through university education or higher education and are affecting our families, our communities, and the nation in any way, it shows the importance of the subject. Why everybody must have access to higher education generally and university education specifically regarding this project and the topic we've been given. we know how much we affect our families, and in your own small corner, the privileges you've had by virtue of the fact that you've had access to, this type of education. And wouldn't we want others to enjoy what we are enjoying? Wouldn't we want others to also come this far in life to have something for themselves as well as their families? And that is why this subject of investigation, I think it is very appropriate for us to go through. So I'll go straight on to look at what we are going to chew on for today in these 8 areas. We'll have an introduction, a small one. We'll look at the objectives of the paper, analytical framework, methodology we adopted, the content and context of some reforms, some policies, some interventions that have served as drivers to university access, quality and sustainability. Of course, we've done a big report, and it is not possible that we can talk about all the things we found in that report. So we will summarize it just so that we get something to discuss in this dialogue. So we will also look at the key issues we found in our investigation. We will draw conclusions, and then we will have some recommendations. And may I say also that this is work that is based on literature, and it is literature that is available to us. So it may be that there are issues we may not have laid hands on, which I believe in the course of the discussion, members here, distinguished members here can prompt us or give us that information. So then, I've already talked about the importance of higher education, university education, and that is why the nation, the state, the government sees it important to make higher education accessible to as many of the citizenry as possible, because it is very important for people to develop themselves. And again, we know that in these days, we live in a knowledge economy where it is knowledge that drives systems. So it is important we develop people's knowledge to affect the nation's development. So again, we notice that as a right, indeed, as in the 4th Republican Constitution, it is stated that the state, the government will give higher education and university education or make it accessible to the citizenry. And that gives us the impression that it is a right and not a privilege. But then as we are seated here, very few of us who go through the system, we seem to think that it is a privilege to be in university. Does it mean then that the right, as the 4th Republican Constitution seems to suggest, is not working? So this is what we want to see in the studies that we reviewed. So we have these 3 key objectives that we tried to address in our investigation. The first is to explore the implications of the expansion on public universities over the 3 decades on equitable access, quality, and sustainability. So you can see in this project, the scope is within the last 3 decades, which is why even though we trace higher education development beyond the 4th, I think, let me call it the 1992 Constitution, to be brief. So if we look at the times we are in now, we can trace that the last 3 decades will take us to the 1992 Constitution. But of course, we know that higher education started way before the 1992 Constitution. So for this investigation, our focus is on the policies, the interventions, the reforms, the drivers, the actors, the things that have moved higher education expansion to where it is today. Secondly, we sought to explore the areas of key challenges and successes resulting from both past and recent higher education reforms based on available evidence. And then lastly, we try to proffer recommendations for strategic management level decisions and future policy reforms. So how did we do it? We had basically, as I have already indicated, it's a review of what is existing in documents, in data, government data, institutional data, studies, empirical studies. So we had studies on public university education, both in Ghana and elsewhere. We have national, international education thresholds like the SDGs, which we also know are an external drive. It serves as an external drive to what we do nationally. We had interventions, and we had official statistics on admissions, enrollment, and related data. We also had some informal consultations with university practitioners. So this is how we got information for this review. And we were guided by this analytical framework. So we looked at the context of the reforms, the interventions, the drivers of the expansion. We looked at the content. We also looked at the process. And within that, we also noted that there are actors, the form of the institutions themselves that will implement the interventions and the policy and so on. So now, looking at the content, the context, the drivers of the expansion, we trace a little bit back to the period before independence. And what is of significance to us in this report or in this paper is the 1991 Education Act. Among other things, that Education Act expanded basic pre-university education generally. So in that act, you have free compulsory education. And free compulsory education at pre-tertiary level will then mean that people who go through it would also want to go to the next level, which is the higher education. So we find that act important. And in that act, we also see that it served as a driver to the nationalization of the University of Ghana. As we know, in 1948, when the University of the Gold Coast was under the colonial authority, after independence, we wanted to own it. So that is what we mean by the nationalization of those institutions. And then we knew the government of the day had taken full responsibility of university education. And I believe senior members, distinguished persons here, some of you went through education in those times and you enjoyed free meals, you enjoyed free accommodation, and you enjoyed all the freebies. But unfortunately, in our day, you have to fight for your own. So this period, I think, so significant in expanding university education. Then we go to the 1987 reforms, and we know that the 1987 reforms also had a comprehensive reform of all the levels of education, including university education. That is where the primary school, 6 years primary school, middle school, 4 years, had to be reduced. That's where we started the JSS then program. And that is where the University Rationalization Committee was put together to advise governments at the time on some issues, especially concerning government spending, because in that period, we had the IMF structural adjustment, which tried to discourage government spending on higher education. So that period started the decline where education spending had reduced and where the freebies had reduced and where students now had to pay part of their education. So this is where we note in the literature that, you know, the access and the access seemed to be universal access was declining. Now we come to the 1992 Republican Constitution, and from there the 2007, and then now the 2030 strategic plan. And in all of these, we see that education, university education is prioritized, is emphasized, access is emphasized, quality is emphasized, financing is also emphasized. So basically, in summary, these reforms, we would say, now are driving what we are experiencing today. So now we go to what the issues are regarding the expansion and our topic, the effects on access. Now universities have expanded. So is there expansion at all? And I believe all of us here can tell that between 1992 and now, there has been expansion. At least when I attended university, I'm not that old, but when I attended university, there were three major universities, 3 or 4. The University of Education, Winneba, was not then a full-fledged university. So there was University of Cape Coast, there was, of course, I should mention University of Ghana first. University of Ghana, the KNUST, and then the University of Cape Coast, which then people thought was a university for old ladies and old men because we were trained to be teachers. But anyway, from that time till now, we see that a lot has changed. Now we have 25 universities. And then we have the polytechnics also, technical universities, sorry. We have the technical universities. So yes, there has been expansion. There also has been an increase in student enrollment. So if you look at the number 3 there, because of the increase in student enrollment, infrastructure has also expanded. When I attended University of Cape Coast in the late 80s, early 90s, there are some structures currently which were not there. And I believe the same applies to other traditional universities. Some structures that were not there then are now there. So we can say that there has been some expansion in infrastructure as well as student enrollment. You have different entry routes to university education. We have distant programs, we have sandwich programs, we have online courses, and so on and so forth. So there is evidence in the literature that there has been expansion in university education. So now, what are some of the successes? If you looked at one of the objectives, the second objective was to look at some of the challenges and successes. So yes, there has been some successes. We have what we call spatial improvements. So where we had all the universities in the southern zone, the University of Cape Coast, Winneba, Legon, KNUST, all in the southern zone. Now, you can tell that in almost every region, there is a public university. So that is what we see to be a success in terms of space, in terms of the spread across the region. Then there is also awareness. So when university education used to be for the rich and for those on the southern zone and for those who probably attended elite secondary schools, now we see that minority groups, people with learning disability, physical disabilities, women, and all groups we thought were minorities, there is now awareness that, they can all have access to university education and it is open to everybody. At least we've heard that there are some concessions. And I remember time past, the KNUST showcasing some brilliant but needy students they took in from very remote villages and how they did well and how they excelled beyond even those from the so-called elite institutions, showing that if these minority groups are given access or given consideration in admissions, they can excel. So we have that also happening as a success to the expansion. We have affirmative action for females operating in some institutions. And then we have a legislation for people with disability so that there is more awareness about these different minority groups. And let me sound that I believe there are other minority groups which probably our review of the existing literature did not show. But for what we found, the available studies that studies that are available to us, we noted these three main groups as the minority groups from very schools or needy students, people with disability, and women. And to talk of women, we can tell I'm sure the academy was careful to bring in a number of women here to show that there is some balance, right? Otherwise, probably the academy itself, I don't know much about the academy, but probably they don't have as many women as men in the academy. The point is that we find that, picking up in this higher space, it's not enough, as we will see when we come to challenges. So, what are some of the challenges? And according to the 1992 Constitution, as I said, stating that the state will make higher education, university education accessible to all the citizenry. That is conditional because it says it depends on availability of space. So that is what the clause is. Depending on availability of space, higher education or university education will be made accessible to all the citizenry. So we find that conditional clause to be challenging because then the state will now determine how much space is available, how much infrastructure is available, and therefore how many people can have access. We also find that regarding inclusion and equity, there is still more to be done. So let's look at the cost of university education now. Recently, universities took on first-year students, and we know some of us whose wards children are university, we know how much they are paying. For a decent accommodation, you will not pay less than 10,000 Ghana cedis for a decent accommodation because the university halls of residence are not enough. So students have to find their own accommodation. Then you talk of the facility user fees. They will have to pay for the lecture room, the use of lecture rooms, all the academic facilities. So that is additional cost. And not to talk of the feeding, the books and other things students have to acquire. So now we see that even though the state says university education should be accessible, one has to have money to be able to access it. So we find that to be a challenge, still a challenge which is problematic. Then we also noted that there doesn't seem to be a quota. In some of the institutions we had interactions with, there doesn't seem to be a quota for certain groups of people. And what we picked up specifically is the people with disabilities. So if you go to any particular university and ask, Do you have a particular cap? And how many people with disability you want to attract? You are not likely to find that cap. And therefore, it means that we are not intentionally making way for such minority groups. Now, we showed this, and I'm sorry, there's information here which is not very accurate. We wanted to show this as the enrollment and the dropout rates, the enrollment and dropout, to say that for various reasons we did not find in the literature, some students are not able to complete with their cohort. So many students can enroll, the entrance and the exit. So many enter, but are they all able to exit? In some cases, it is financial reasons. And myself, as a university practitioner, I've had the occasion to pay school fees for a number of my students, pay accommodation, feed them, give them pocket money. So it is real that there are students who are not able to make the cost of their education. Of course, there are other reasons, not just cost. So, still talking about the challenges. I have already hinted that there is doesn't seem to be data on some of the minority groups we think are being excluded. Some of them who are dropping out, that we can't even tell that they are at risk of dropping out. If we have data, we can tell who is at risk of dropping out. If we have monitoring mechanisms, we can tell if students are at risk and we can monitor them. But there doesn't seem to be that monitoring mechanism or data. Then the STEM program. So the question we ask ourselves is, what are students getting access to in university? What are they accessing in university? They are accessing programs. They are accessing courses. And we find that a lot of the courses the students are accessing are in the humanities, even though there is a government policy that we should move towards the STEM, the sciences. And I think now we hear a lot of STEM activities going on where we have secondary schools targeting STEM students. But now, if we look at the data, the enrollment figures in universities, a lot more of them are still in the in the humanities, which means that the national target for science to be 60 proportionally to humanities 40 is still not working. If the normal fee is, for example, 5,000 Ghana cedis, if you opt for the fee paying model, you are likely to pay more than 10,000 Ghana cedis. And I can cite my university as an example. My university is not traditionally for medicine and pharmacy. And I think we are all aware that now universities are taking on programs that were traditionally not within their mandate. And because the university has taken on these programs, it seems to be the university's own baby, the university's own program in a way to raise money. And so students who want to offer, study pharmacy, study medicine, study some other programs that are in high demand, they will have to pay extra fees to access. It means then, going back to the same issue of cost, that if you are not able to pay, then you will have to go into the humanities. So like the omnibus programs where everybody is going in, the government subsidized and so on and so forth. We note also that there is a gross enrollment target of 25%, which should have been achieved in the year 2021. But in the middle of 2021, it was 20%, meaning that that target has also not been achieved. So moving quickly to the quality. we move from the access to the quality now. And as for quality, I think we all have some idea about what is going on, so I'll go through them quickly. The infrastructural deficits. There has been expansion in infrastructure, but still there is a deficit. So that we find to affect quality because if we don't have enough lecture rooms, then you go to a lecture room and find students stampeding to find spaces to sit way before the lecture time. And how much will the lecturer be able to cover with large student numbers? And then the alternative routes I spoke about, sometimes we have challenges because the learning environment may not be that conducive or support may not be adequate. And I have talked about large classes already. So I want to briefly show you some experiences of students in university in this excerpt. It says, you see, oftentimes we learn about theory, but then the practical aspect is what we are lacking. So basically, this excerpt is showing that we seem to be dispensing knowledge rather than giving students the opportunity to have hands-on activities in their university education. Still about quality, we have issues with resources. So resources generally, we talk about technology as one of the key resources we need, because if we are able to reach wide the spectrum of students, we can do that if we, these few days, we've all seen the challenges we've had with internet. We cannot reach student bodies if institutions, network systems, and infrastructure are not good enough. I'll cite one example quickly. In one of my university, one lecturer who had 800 students wanted to do computer-based assessment, but the computer lab has only 100 computers. How is he going to manage 800 students with 100 computers? So this is one of the challenges. So materials for students with disability, irregular opportunities for staff, capacity building, and then programs. I've talked about the humanities. These days, you complete university education, and if you don't find a job for yourself, I mean, if you don't create a job, you don't expect that there will be a job available immediately after graduation. So if the programs are able to make them create jobs, then that will solve some of those problems. Then we have products coming out of our institutions, literature showing that there seems to be a mismatch. So if the students are saying that we are doing theory, then it means that they go to this job market or they go to the industry and it is only theory they know and not how to execute. So briefly, this is what we found on quality. And I move quickly to, because I don't have much time, I'll move quickly to some concerns. Again, I picked from some of our lecturers. And I must say that few months ago, 2 months ago or so, lecturers were just about embarking on a industrial action because of various issues. And I picked this from our platform where we were debating whether to go or not. And this is what some of our lecturers were saying. Have we considered the conditions under which we work on our various campuses? Have we thought of our continuously increasing workload? Have we carefully examined the number of hours we work a day, 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m.? And in some cases, we go beyond 6:30 p.m., 9 p.m. Have we critically assessed the number of colleagues who are dying and what is killing them? Are we aware that our employers expect us the best result and blah, 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 are not able to provide us with the tools? And the last of this excerpt is, have we looked at the state of our offices? And at my university, we have professors, 3 of them sharing one small office. I took pictures, but unfortunately, I cannot show them. Have we taken note of the nature of lecture theaters we operate from? We are marking scripts, attending meetings, blah, blah, blah. Are we happy that one lecturer is expected to mark, score, screen, and enter the scores of our about 1,000 students? And it looks like this is an exaggeration, but really on the ground, you find some courses where the students are in their large numbers, the humanities, having such student numbers. So these are real challenges that the expansion and the access is giving us. Now we go to the sustainability bits, which is the last part of this. And then I have re-echoed that there is lack of data. So if we continue like that, then we are not going to be able to achieve this inclusivity agenda. And I think the 2018-2030 strategic plan emphasizes inclusivity, making sure that all minority groups are targeted. But we don't have data, and we don't even have a quota for their inclusion. So that is something regarding the future of our university access and who gets to enter. Then we have the affirmative action, which is not working in some institutions. We had interaction with some institutions, asking them about their affirmative action. Some of them don't even know about any such policy. Then the cost of university, which I have already talked about. Sorry. Increase in number of students without corresponding expansion. That is something we all very well know, where universities take on more students. We build, how do we call it? Accommodation. We build hostels, but we forget to build lecture theaters. We forget to build lecturers' offices, you know, so that is also very important sustainability concern. Then dropout, as I showed in the graph, we have students dropping out. But if we ask the institutions, how many of your students were not able to graduate with their cohort, it will be difficult to get the data. And yet some students are not making it. So this is also something we need to talk about if we want to look at the future of the access and quality and sustainability. Then the mismatch between industry needs and skills, which I have already hinted. Then inadequate staff, which the excerpts showed. So now I go to our conclusions. So we conclude that there is evidence of expansion, no doubt about that. Institutions are not intentional. That is what we conclude. Institutions are not intentional about equitable access and minority groups. So this is the inclusion I'm talking about, I talked about early on. New universities are established without adequate planning of resources, and there is lack of maintenance of the existing infrastructure. We also conclude that public university graduates seem to be inadequately prepared due to quality concerns that we have raised. And then there is a skills gap between the graduate and what the job market has for them. Now, what are our recommendations? And quickly, I'll read through them. So planning for infrastructural expansion is key. Merging duplicated programs. And here, let me cite an example where in my university, we are talking of School of Engineering. We don't have enough facilities, schools, and so on, but nearby technical university is endowed, and they are also doing engineering. Is it possible for us to merge? Because if you look at one institution, they are struggling to get student numbers. If you look at another institution, they are also about, you know, they can take on more. So can we look at that? Then curriculum reform. If our curricula is not addressing the needs of industry, can we look at that? Then partnership between government, academia, and industry. What is called the triple helix model of innovation, where these bodies speak to each other, so we know that we are all, you know, speaking the same way and producing graduates that will fit industry as well as serve the national interest. Then we also propose that it should be possible to increase public-private partnership. And in some institutions, I know this is being done. where the private, how do we call them? Business people come in, build, they operate, somebody owns, and then it is transferred. So that can also be done. And then we need to be more responsive to the diversity. We need to be intentional about minority groups, intentional about people with disability. We need to have statistics, data on these groups. So for example, if I go to GTech, am I able to find data on disabled persons in all the country, in all institutions? So that is something, government statistics, institutional statistics, we should all be looking to do. Then lastly, we may have to review the cost sharing arrangement, knowing that some students are not able to, because even though they are taking loans, is the loan enough for even one academic year? Looking at the figures have indicated in this presentation. And then there is need to improve on retention, because it doesn't make sense when we open access to students, they spend so much second year, third year, and then it all goes to waste because they are not able to complete. So I think these are some of the ideas we are floating in our report, which we can engage in our dialogue. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Edu Yeboah. Can we give her another round of applause? Obviously, it's not easy to take a 40 to 50 page paper and try and present it in 30 minutes. Or I was generous, I gave you more than 30 minutes. But the paper will be available. You have the executive summary and the paper will be available to all of you. So thank you very much. I would like us to do a round of introduction before we get to the review. So I'll let this table settle in. I'm going to start from over there. So please, is there another mic on the floor? I should have done it earlier. Thank you. So please start with Professor Adams. Yeah. Oh, who is leaving? Hello. Don't go. Yes.
Can introduce himself.
My name is Haruna Zagun Said from the West of Ghana. I have a lecture at 11:30, so I have to leave.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Abba Bentelandam. I'm a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences and a past president.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Isabella Kwachi. I'm the vice president of the sciences section.
I'm Lydia Aziato Yuhas.
I am James Hawkins Ephraim, a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences.
I am Clifford Tegu. Well, I chair the steering committee for the project.
Paul Ifa is my name, former executive secretary of the SY National Council for Tertiary Education, now GTech.
Oh, go back.
I'm Khadija Musa, a journalist from Ghana News Agency.
My name is Emmanuel Owusu. I am the National President for Postgraduate Students Association of Ghana. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Beth Ofei Ewuku, National President, Ghana Association of University Administrators.
My name is Yayura Jakaji, Deputy Director General, Ghana Tertiary Education Commission.
I'm Anthony Simmons, UMAT.
Pardon? I didn't get your designation.
UMAT, University of Mines and Technology.
I am Apolonio Sosaya Kutasare from the Ghana Commission for UNESCO.
My name is Ernest Aite from the African Research Universities Alliance.
Akila Soya, Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences.
I am Christian Akwisije, the Coordinating Secretary for Ghana National Union of Technical Students.
I am Samson Abagali, CK Tedam University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Navrongo.
I'm Adam Yunus, a member of the team that worked on this.
Lydia Framia Denchi, a member of the team from University of Cape Coast.
Christine Eduyeboa, the leader of the team.
I'm Sophia Pia from Access Bank.
I'm David Intodanso from Access Bank.
I'm James Iborogu from TV Africa.
Edem Afanu, TV Africa.
John Japon, University of Health and Allied Sciences, and a fellow of the academy.
Thank you. I wanted us to know ourselves, to see the variety of persons and interests that are gathered here, and clearly why this topic is important to us. So thank you very much. We will have a review, the reviews of the paper. Dr. Paulifa is here, so he will present, and then we'll listen to a video recording of the second review. So.
Prof. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the Academy for inviting me to review the paper, and would like to thank the authors of the paper and for the presentation. As was noted in the presentation, the paper highlights the importance of higher education and universities, and identifies higher education as a public good, indeed as a right. Putting this in the context of the Constitution, specifically Article 25 and 38, and also emphasizing the provision of equitable and uninhibited access to higher education, and the prioritization of the of science and technology. The background sets out the objectives of the paper, and let me point out that I had the opportunity of reading the entire paper and not just the summary. So some of the comments may go beyond what you have heard this morning. In terms of methodology, she emphasized that it relied on several studies in higher education. The Higher Education Strategic Plan of Ghana, 2018 to 2030. The education reforms from 1992 to 2023 mentions what is popularly called the Anamwa report of 2002, mentioning, highlighting the University Rationalization Committee and the white paper on it. I will comment on that briefly. I would go on to talk about expansion. I will not say much about some of the things that have been said, but where I thought I would provide additional information, I will mention that. On expansion, equitable access, progression, and successful completion, Table 1 that I saw in the paper shows spatial distribution of public universities, 15, and for traditional and 10 for technical universities. Total enrollment that was shown was 361,804, and the source is GTech. The paper provides evidence from research to support the claim that in spite of a significant change in enrollment patterns and improved trend of higher education participation, access and participation gaps still exist in terms of gender, social class, geographical location, and type of secondary school attended. Mentions access for students with special education needs and disabilities, as was mentioned. The STEM and humanities, the gap between these two was highlighted and details given in table 2 and figure 3. The disparity between the two was highlighted. The implications of expansion on the provision of quality higher education was discussed, mentioning infrastructure, quality human resource progression, and completion rates, sandwich and distance education came up for mention. The implications of expansion on affordability and sustainability talked about cost sharing, user fees, student loan schemes, and GTech, Get Fund and Get Fund. I would just highlight a few areas that I thought require further work or further addressing. Because I noted that in the presentation, a number of issues that did not come up in the paper have been highlighted. But the first that I want to comment on is the URC, University Rationalization Committee report and the white paper on it. This for me is significant. It's, if you like, the backbone. I mean, it's the details that came into the 1992 Constitution. So I thought that a lot more work should be done on this session. In particular, upgrading of university polytechnics into tertiary education institutions, the establishment of University for Development Studies, University of Education, Winneba, and even the establishment of the National Council for Tertiary Education Accreditation Board were all recommendations from this, the URC report. I would like to highlight the following that was raised by Alison Gedwood and he wrote this paper, World Bank paper in 1999, the unification of the existing institutions into a coordinated tertiary education system and the establishment of new bodies and mechanisms to provide system management and control, measures to ensure the system's overall financial sustainability, including cost recovery, cost sharing with students and the private sector, a norm-based approach to institutional management, and new block grant funding mechanism. Significant expansion of tertiary education system as a whole to meet the demands of school leavers and the needs of employers to provide a greater opportunity of access to those previously denied. Often there is a talk about the mismatch, and this has also featured. It is important to know the types of universities. Sometimes people just simply say that you finish university and you are not prepared for the world of work. There are research-intensive universities, comprehensive universities, developmental universities, technical universities, and so on. So it is important to see, to have the context in which we are making these remarks. I have read somebody who said universities have been trained in the exquisite art of idleness. You go to university, train the mind such that you can fit into anywhere, wherever you go. So it is important to identify this. If you pick technical universities, strictly is linked to industry, and there's no reason why they would finish and be looking for jobs. So that we can say that technical universities are preparing people, every one of them, for the world of work. The next point that I want to raise is that not enough evidence adduced to support the claim that sandwich distance education, the implications of that. It is important to buttress the point. I don't know how many institutions you spoke to, specific universities in distance education, and the quality of the graduates as compared with the regular universities. It is important to do a lot more work to ensure that we know the gaps and we see what it is that we can do. And often talking about outputs as opposed to outcomes. When how many graduates you have turned out, first class, second upper, and all that, and how they fit into society. And I like the point that you raised. In terms of creativity, innovation, problem-solving skills, how do they fit into society? I have heard 2, 3 graduates coming together and they say they want to produce pen using bamboo. I mean, they finished the university. They are coming together to see how they can produce pen using bamboo. I mean, that's what universities do. Universities train the mind, and then you go there and conquer the world and solve problems of society. Expansion, spatial distribution. You showed total of the 25, the 10 years plus 15 universities where they are located and so on. You could have also shown a table with relative enrollment in public universities as opposed to private universities. Even the colleges of education, I know that you were targeting public universities, but they are under the public universities. They work on them. They're under the tutelage. And so it is important to also see how they impact on these, although that is not the focus of the university. How many people are inching towards the university, the SS, free SS. How many are there? Knocking at the doors at the universities. Can they stand this pressure? I think that it is important. Maybe in education, we talk about pipeline issues, even from the basic, how they are going and the impact they will have at the public sector. And that is important to show how this would affect, implications of this for the universities. There's also a promise to establish more universities. And this is coming, and all this will have implications for funding for all these. Quality dimensions, we want to see qualified teachers. You mentioned infrastructure, skills, and we've just spoken about burnout, complete stress now in the university to publish, to read, to do then what? How is that affecting the universities? The staff-student ratios, do we have the proportions that meet the norms established by the GTE? And all this have implications for quality. Even the mode of teaching, we were talking about technology-enhanced learning these days. Are they there or they are not? There's not enough data except for the dropouts that you showed. I know how difficult it is to get data on all this, but at least even if you had one from one university full, then we can use that to approximate what is likely to happen in other universities. So the discussion was general and limited. In terms of implications of expansion on affordability and sustainability, I think a lot more work should be done in that area. The public-private collaboration, and although the triple helix did not feature in the paper, your presentation, you mentioned the collaboration that could be expanded also, or broadened to include government and state. We could talk about research, collaboration and partnerships, project proposal writing, startups, spin-offs, challenges with norm-based approaches to education financing, block grants. These were supposed to be there. Are they effective? If they are not, what are the challenges? Because as yourself pointed out, funding has become very, very crucial. Income generation activities that you mentioned, and commercialization versus experimental farms, for example, in the universities. Now, they want to set up all these. It's mission creep came there, and this is important that in your discussion, we mentioned that I have heard several times that institutions like Cape Coast University were set up for to train teachers, but if you read the act establishing the a university, it says that to provide education, except that emphasis will be put on training of teachers. So it could be 49, 51, doing other things and so on. So sometimes it is important to put this in context, and the science-based ones you need some base in humanities to support the science. But of course, the proportions that need to be looked at and to see how we police that. But one critical issue is the lack of funding, because government support is dwindling in terms of subventions. The universities have had to find ways of generating enough money to support their activities. So this area is so crucial the future. How do we support education financially? So the paper can benefit from some more discussion. The paper identified all the key issues, and it is just that we need to sometimes with data to beef up some of the statements that you have made. So you need some more data, and overall, it's a very good effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I called you up on a Sunday and cajoled you into coming. We have had a more detailed review than even what you provided in writing. And it reflects the experience that you've had and your continuing engagement. And I want to say that, you know, a lot of the issues like the paper presenters mentioned, this was very much a desk review. But the culminating activity of this project will be an international conference in November this year. And I will be very much also cajoling GTech. Today is your first high level, I didn't say presence, high level presence in this project as GTech. We've had representation, but not at the level of the Director General or the Deputy Director General. So I'm serving you notice that this conference that we are going to host, you will be very much a partner. And I think that both the presentation and the review has raised very critical issues for all of us that need further elaboration. So I will be calling on some of you for keynotes, to chair panel discussions, etc., so that we can together deal with some of these issues and make sure, I mean, some of the things that Paul was raising from the University Rationalization Committee report, the Alison Gerwood paper, etc. Some have been done, some have not been done. And, you know, we did not ask her to get into the conversion of the polytechnics because we already had a paper on that. But these are all pertinent issues that will come up in the conference. And we hope that together we can make a difference. And we are also hoping that at the end of this project, that GTech will adopt formally this periodic convocation of players in the higher education sector for us to collectively, outside of the official channels, the boards, etc., to really come out and discuss these and many other pertinent issues. So we'll move on to the second reviewer now, who is in Rwanda. He cannot join us, but he has recorded a video for us, and I hope the acoustics will be good. I'm glad he sent it before the undersea. Actually, the cable had already broken, but he managed to send it. So please go ahead. Volume. So this review is being done by Dr. Ibrahim Wanda Ogachi, who is currently at the MasterCard Foundation, but was previously at the Council for the Development of Social Science Research in Africa, CODESRIA in Dakar, and he's a higher education specialist. I hear anything?
For inviting me to participate in this Paris Forum. I have reviewed two papers that I'm going to make brief comments on. First was the paper on expansion of public universities in Ghana and implications on access and quality. And the second was the paper I reviewed on relations between the state and the public universities in Ghana. These two papers are kind of related. The state is central in terms of thinking about issues of access, but also the various issues that are teased out in the paper on on the state and the public universities in Ghana. I'm not going to go to very detailed observations about the comments I made, but allow me to frame about 5 points within which the comments I provided for the papers, are manifested. First of all, is the whole issue of how we understand growth and expansion. The clear meaning is that we are thinking about the enhanced capacities of the institutions to align and achieve their mission. Better capacities, better capabilities that should guide this growth. And so when one is reading this paper, one is trying to see if this kind of capacities are being highlighted, if there is any change that is being noticed in terms of how the capacities of the institutions have been changing from time to time beyond issues of access. The second observation I want to make is in terms of how we analyze expansion and state steering beyond issues of fiscal access. And there has been much literature across the continent talking about massification or expansion, and the only metric that is often provided is that related to at least increased undergraduate enrollments. But I think we should go beyond this and try to be a little bit analytical in terms of understanding how this expansion is triggering aspects of horizontal broadening of access. Are we seeing more new demographics of students getting into the institutions? Are we seeing institutions developing their capacity, for example, to engage with students of different abilities? And are we seeing, the entry of private higher education institutions changing these dynamics in any way, and what are those ways in which we can discuss these issues? And the papers that I've reviewed try to engage with these issues, but I think more and better analysis could be provided in terms of how we question how we frame the question of access. And how we understand it, what its implication is, what the role of the state is, and what the role of private providers has been in these developments. What are the institutions, for example, doing to the new demographics of students that are getting into these institutions, if at all this is happening? Because in some cases we are talking about expansion and access, when we are actually talking about it in a very vertical sense. We are not being analytical to see if there are any new demographics of students getting into the institutions. And accompanying this physical access and expansion is the whole issue of, are we seeing expansion in terms of disciplinary and epistemological or varings in these institutions? Again, it is important. The paper about the history of universities, the paper which kind of gives an historical overview about how universities have developed in the content, and how higher education institutions have developed in the content, with a specific case about Ghana, kind of reflects the traditional evolution of these institutions from the time they were established by the colonial governments, then the post-colonial period, where expansion takes the same trajectory that we saw, starting from the colonial period. Both in terms of the institutions and the disciplines that are over in these institutions, but there has not been much questioning about the nature of knowledge, the expansion of knowledge, and the frameworks and the perspectives that are used to generate knowledge in these institutions. But if we read the literature about what's emerging in other countries, for example, there's a lot of deliberate engagements with what it would mean for higher education institutions to engage with indigenous and other knowledges in terms of explaining disciplines in terms of generating knowledge from research, and in terms of how the institutions engage with communities who may not be very fast in Western knowledge orientation. And I think this is important, therefore, to couple together the issue of fiscal expansion of access in a very horizontal sense with the other issue of how we see the disciplines horizontally expanding to include new justification for knowledge that is coming from communities and from other stakeholders who have remained marginal to how we have conceptualized higher education in the continents from its colonial origins. The fourth point I want to make is in terms of what the expansion of higher education institutions and the nature of state-university relations has meant for research. Again, this has been something that is always glossed over. We talk about massification, that higher education institutions are multiplied, but we are not talking about if this is changing the trends in research and knowledge production in the institutions. There has been a singular focus on undergraduate access, but not enough questioning about how this then is affecting the growth in postgraduate enrollments and a more intentional focus in growing the research portfolios in these institutions. The papers, again, do refer to this in terms of the expansion of private higher education institutions, but are a little bit silent to engage more analytically with the kind of research that is taking place in these institutions. In other words, are we seeing across the continent, and in the case of Ghana, more expansion in terms of teaching online institutions at a time when knowledge is very fundamental? Talk about the knowledge economies, and knowledge is becoming very fundamental in terms of how we examine the relations between higher education institutions and the communities where they are located. And the fifth is the role of the private sector. And the papers do a good kind of job in trying to lay the frameworks, the legal frameworks that have facilitated the growth of private higher education institutions across the continent, and specifically in Ghana. And the paper like the one on expansion does document what we are seeing in terms of growth of number of students. But then I don't think that the role of the private sector should just be looked in terms of how they are contributing in terms of private capital to run the institutions or private students getting to the institutions. It is to what extent the private logic in terms of expanding the institutions is affecting the whole higher education ecosystem, so to speak. And in terms of making a balance between public resources and private resources, we need a more analytical balance show that actually private resources and private logics are kind of displacing the public thinking about what higher education institution should be across the continent, and specifically in Ghana, away from what it was from the time the higher education institutions were established across this continent. Now, in terms of policy, and I think this is what's important because it's a policy dialogue beyond the descriptive narratives that the papers provide about what's happening between the state and higher education institutions, about the different trends in expansion, students, institutions, and all that. What kind of comparative metrics should we deploy if these papers are going to better inform policy going forward in terms of how higher education in Ghana is going to be organized? What, for example, better metrics should we use to influence a better policy orientation in terms of the research and publications that's coming out of the institutions. And there is, and I made this in terms of the comments I made, my comments on the paper on expansion, are the fair fact that our analysis and where we draw, the evidence in these papers is largely external, with very little engagement with what's happening across the continent. And the same question could be asked about then, even if there is research and knowledge production and publications that are coming out of these institutions. Are these trends, have they been externally captured? Or there is a new rethinking about how higher education research and the publications should be organized in this continent in ways that speaks more to the interests of the different stakeholders, across the continent. And the communities actually become more central in terms of thinking about this. To what extent is the knowledge that we are producing speaking to the needs and context of the different communities that higher education institutions are supposed to serve in this continent? So that becomes for me a very important issue in terms of thinking about policy going forward. But again, the second issue is in terms of what is happening within these institutions that are either expanding or that the state is trying to configure its relationships. In what ways, for example, can we say, or can we think differently about issues of efficiency in the institutions? Graduation rates, for example, is an important embroidered. And the question we need to answer is, who are the students who are not getting embroidered from these institutions? Who are the students who are accessing and the emerging narrative on who is therefore getting embroidered, who suffers more even if the institutions have tried to expand access more horizontally. roadblock in terms of either the skills they get in institutions or in terms of their entry into the labor markets, which means that the institutions.
I don't like that. Thank you very much. I've asked it to be cut because, as you will realize, it's actually combining two reviews. Unfortunately, the sound was a little poor. I'm going to try and see if we can work on the video because he's making important remarks and we should not miss it. So we will work on it. But I do hope that both the reviews from Dr. Efa and Dr. Gachi will be available to you in terms of the issues that are raised, especially in the latter paper, asking that beyond the physical expansion, that we do look at some other issues, So I want to thank the two reviewers very much for the work that they put in. And now I'm going to ask our panel to come forward. So we've listened to, where's the other microphone? There's only one microphone. So we've listened to the presenters, and before, I'm going to start by initially asking all of you to reflect on the presentation. And then I have a couple of questions that I want to ask you. So we'll start with Aziato.
Thank you very much, and good still morning, I think, to all of us here. I want to congratulate the authors for a good job done, very detailed work. As I read the version that was circulated, I picked up, and I think that my thoughts resonate with most of the findings thereof. I don't know the questions you ask, but my thoughts are as follows. This is on a personal level. If we're going to have expansion, first of all, where are we going to have this new university? Is the community ready for it? I believe that before even the announcement is the readiness and the preparedness for the geographical location, accommodation for staff, students, stakeholder involvement, and both diaspora and local people from the area, what they can give to support the new institution thereof. How much are we ready to give in terms of allocation funds, in terms of financial clearance, in terms of other amenities, for example, good schools for the children of the staff that will go to that university to work. I also believe that that new university should have an older university that is ready to mentor and hold its hands through the growth process. I believe that there must be something else extra that the Ministry of Education through the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission would do to ensure the standards are met. Now, depending on the program that a new university will run, would determine how there's traffic to the university. Some of our current new universities are struggling to have students to apply to the universities. And so if we have the program or the niche area, the question is it marketable? So that is very, very important for me. And the main speaker made reference to STEM programs, but it is the most expensive to run or to train. So from the beginning, I mentioned the commitment of the local stakeholders, both local and diaspora, and private partners, contribution to the growth or to sustain the new university. So if we are going to go STEM in that new university, it means that we need to give more to it. I know that there are other speakers, so perhaps I'll end my initial thoughts here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, moderator, and my earlier speaker, Professor Lydia Zito. Yes, so talking about the access to university education, I really have to mention that we are getting additional university to ensure access to university education across the country. And approval has been granted for the establishment of additional university. Stakeholders have been consulted, and we are in the process of establishing the university to enable access. Currently, we have the gross tertiary enrollment ratio, which stands at 22% as of 2023. And we are working towards 40% by 2030. So there's a need for us to expand the existing universities and also establish additional institutions where students don't get access to university education as a result of distance and other issues. So we believe that the expansion and adding on to the existing ones will be a panacea to the barrier to access university education. And we are also mindful, as the presenter said, yes, we are also mindful about our regulatory measures as to duplication of programs in some universities. And we are working seriously towards it. And mind you, some programs in some universities are also overly subscribed. And the universities are more or less turning down applicants who did not meet the requirements for admission. They've and then program accreditation also to enable access. We are looking at the distance mode where some universities have expanded beyond their capacity, trying to get to territories that they shouldn't have gotten into. When you get to technical university, let me make a typical example of Tamale Technical University. You get to the entrance of Tamale Technical University, you see UDS, City Campus, right at the entrance of Tamale Technical University. One wonders seriously what UDS is doing at the entrance of Tamale Technical University. These are issues that the regulator is in to resolve in, in no time. So this will be my initial comment. And I must also use the opportunity to congratulate the authors of the paper. They've done well, but there are some issues we'll discuss later. And maybe we need to update them on the data we have at GTech to bring the paper up to date with the issues around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm grateful for this invitation to be on this panel. And thank you to the authors of this paper. But what comes to mind as a university administrator is what role have you given to the university administrators in coming up with this paper, even saying that there's not much data on issues that are affecting the universities. I find that very interesting, because if we talk to the registrars and we talk to the directors of finance and we talk to the directors of ICT, data is available. And I think that we may have to involve university administrators in such top-level discussions to get as much as we can in expanding our public universities. I want to plead that university education has two arms. It's the education bit and the administration bit. We cannot, be seen to be bringing quality, sustainability, access without involving university administrators. And so where are the works and fiscal developers? There are directors who can come and contribute to that. Infrastructure is about works and fiscal development. Finance is about sustainability. So as a university administrator, my contribution to this discussion is that if we don't have the right people at the table, we'll keep going and coming, and the essence of quality, access, sustainability will be lost on us. Thank you.
I think my initial remark will be, first of all, to commend the authors of this paper. I think it's a very good paper to start with. The conversation around access, quality, and sustainability is timely. And it's good we're having this conversation at this time. And so my initial comments will be on access to student materials. I know there's been some conversation around it. My focus, as a student leader, we are interested in what we consume at the various universities. And so if we are talking about access and sustainability, you may want to look at what we are giving to our students in order to sustain the conversation around university development or higher education development. And you would also want to avert your minds to probably maybe the future of university education. Now, the conversation around artificial intelligence is evolving or has even come to stay with us. How does artificial intelligence find space in access, quality, and sustainability? So probably maybe the authors of the paper would want to look at that in further reviews that they may want to do. That would be my initial comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you are all important. That's why you are here. The administrator, the regulator, the student, without whom we will not have any institution, and of course, the teachers, vice chancellors, who are playing all those roles on campus, right? Apart from being a student, you are a regulator, you are the chief administrator, you are also dealing with the teaching, academics, etc. So when I was preparing for this forum, I was struck by two headlines in the World University News that I get in my mailbox at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. So the first one was, and they came on the same date, 28 February 2024, South Africa is getting 2 new universities. Here is what they will offer. And the other headline, the same day in the World University News, 4 new universities for Ghana. Will they be resourced? Okay, so I find it very topical for this forum because the headlines encapsulate many of the issues that we are dealing with. And there is a quote in one of the papers which says, "We live in a country where we create universities just by announcement, and many of these are politically driven." So like the GTEC Director General just informed us in the President's State of the Nation address just in February, it was announced that we were going to create 4 new universities in Ghana. One will be at Bunso in the Eastern region. One is at Akrodie in the Ahafo region. One is in Kintampo. And the other is Mampong, Ashanti. Okay. So I want to just look at the 2 new universities because there was a resonance to what Mr. Owusu said. The 2 new universities in South Africa. Yes, that was also announced in their president's State of the Nation address in 2021. They've done the feasibility studies and it's now almost come to fruition. So what are these 2 new universities that South Africa is creating? One is the University of Policing and Crime Detection. The University of Policing and Crime Detection. I think that any of you who know South Africa knows that it is a particularly crime-ridden society where personal security, homicides, bank heists, etc., are common day occurrence. And so they're going to be offering higher certificate in police science, police studies, policing, and police science, policing and police studies. Then they'll do advanced certificate, then the BSc, postgraduate diploma, Master of Police Science, PhD. And they have determined that they will have 2,700 students and 276 staff over the first 10 years. They've also determined the monies that they will have. They've determined that the university will be in deficit for the first 11 years, and then gradually, things will come together. The second university is the University of Science and Innovation. And that will offer a higher certificate in green energy technology, higher certificate in technology-driven agro-processing, diploma in technology-driven smart transport and logistics, a diploma in air traffic control, and then aeronautical management. And then this is, they do the diploma, they do the high set, they do the BSc, the MSc, and the PhD. And I contrast this detail. I'm not, and people like Mr. Efa who are here who were involved with the establishment of UDS, etc., know that, or those who were involved with the establishment of UHAS, knows that all of these, in all the establishment, we have these feasibility studies that are done. But I was struck, for instance, by a comment from Professor Ziato about the ancillary infrastructure that is also needed to attract people there. So my question, I started with this Ghana one, 4 new universities for Ghana. How will they be resourced? So my simple question to each of you, how many universities do we need in Ghana?
So long as we have 16 regions, I think that we need 32. Yeah, 1 public, 1 technical.
The regulator.
Well, I wouldn't be specific. it all depends on the need of the country at a particular time. So currently we are being driven with the issue of STEM. And with the issue of STEM, most of the universities, that is the 4 universities that we intend establishing, have this idea in mind. So for example, when you get to Accra University, we're going to have University of Engineering and Applied Sciences at Accra, with a campus of physical sciences at MAIM in Ahafo region. Ahafo is one of the newest regions yet to have a public university. So when you come to Bonsu, there's a campus of UESD, University of Environment and Sustainable Development. So it's that campus that is being converted to the University of Engineering and Agricultural Sciences. So when you get to Mampong is running University of Applied Arts, Science and Technology, in the sense that, well, we only have one TVET teacher trainee institution. That is Akantana Piaminka University of Skill Training and Entrepreneurial Development. So we are thinking that being a premier technical, maybe TVET teacher training institution, having an additional, a full-fledged university like Mampong, who will also dovetail into the TVET training field, will not be so bad. Hence, we are going to have University of Applied Arts, Science and Technology at Mampong. Again, when you come to so as and when the need arises, I've answered the question. Yeah, so I would not be specific. It all depends on the need of the country. So we can have as many as we wish when the need arises. Thank you.
Yes, I wouldn't disagree with my regulator. I think that it depends. But we need to really evaluate what we have, the quality of what we are producing, and make sure that we are going a certain distance before we add on. That's what I think.
My comments will not be far from what earlier speakers have said. I have always said on a number of platforms that we should do, for university education, we should look at what the nation requires. What's the national agenda? Where are we seeking to develop these nations? In the next 25 years or 30 years, what does Ghana want to transform into? Then, of course, that informs us what kind of universities we want to create. And today, elsewhere, some countries are building university for artificial intelligence, mainly to drive that sciences environment. So I would not put a number to it, but look at what we want. Then based on that, we can say we can define a number to it. Otherwise, you can say you want 500, but it would not inure to the national good.
Thank you. I think in Mr. Efa's review, he mentioned the issue of mission creep. We built Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology to do that science education, science and technology. That was not to suggest that that alone was going to be enough. But over the years, what have we done? We have allowed that mission creep to happen. So the fact that we are starting what we see, and I really do not see how in the remaining 6 years before 2030, we are going to increase our gross enrollment ratio from 22% to 40%. But we have built these institutions and we have dismantled them. You were talking about how you go to one university, it's very crowded, and you issues that the country needs, the smart agro processing, artificial intelligence, all of these things. And I think it came out also in the paper, maybe not in so many words, in terms of this mismatch, although like Mr. Efa cautioned, we have to be careful about painting with too wide a brush, because you find, and in fact, that is one of the, and I would have liked the paper to say a little more about the dismemberment of universities, because it is very sad. I also went to Tamale last year and found lecturers who did not have office space. They don't have offices. They come and teach and they go away. So in the situation where we cannot even resource existing universities, must we create new universities because we have got new regions? Therefore, every region must have a university. How else might we approach this issue of expanding access? And I want us also to think about expansion, not only in terms of physical expansion, but the non-physical, whether it is about the mode of instruction, whether we are also expanding some programs to the detriment of others. And so how are we going to resource these 4 new universities? And I'll start with the regulator.
Yes. So thank you very much. I'm looking at the job opportunities for the local community. I'm looking at the growth in let's say, the economy of the local community. I'm looking at the other infrastructural developments, be it private or government funded in the local community. What I mentioned is not a named university, but a campus in all our regions. I say this because let's look at the traffic in Accra, for instance. The migration of people from one end of the country to the other because of all these access issues is something that we have to look at as a nation. So my initial comment about having 32 meaning a public and technical presence in a region is not like an immediate, but a long-term goal of the nation must be that every region must have something that can keep their people in that region. So that was why I said that we need to have the presence
It is difficult to get an institution or a private university located in these areas. For example, Ahafo region. For example, a typical place like Mampo. So government expanding university establishing new university in those regions, for me, I don't think is bad. Again, funding, talking about funding, the source of funding some other countries, and we've gone to lobby them to come. So some of the facilities are even going to be a BOT, you build, operate, and transfer. So we'll provide the land, and then they will do the needful, they operate and transfer, like hostel facilities and all that. So the funding has come, and the university is going to be established.
You want to say something?
Thank you very much. So I am picking from what my Deputy Director General has just said. Build the classroom, say the laboratory, build some hostel. Okay, even add staff accommodation. That is not enough to kick the ball. I want to suggest that you can have the announcement made today, yes, but let's journey slowly. Rather than tomorrow, give birth to the university, let's journey slowly to say, is the community ready? If I bring, say himself, professor, to Bonsu, and you move with your family, what will happen? I think that having the structure alone is not enough to start the program. Perhaps instead of having all the 4 starting, we can do one at a time.
Actually, I wanted, please, before you get the mic, ask the Vice Chancellor of a new university. How, in terms of the build, operate, and transfer model, or whatever model was used, how, in terms of what you need, what percentage would you give for UHAS? Are you 60%? Are you 80%?
We have not had any BOT yet.
No, not whatever is there. I mean, in terms of what you need to operate.
What we need to operate. For Japan, now we are 10% even. We have 8 schools and we have only had, okay, so by June, July, the second school would have been built. All the others are pitching here and there. So about 10%.
And how old are you?
12 years.
Okay. I think you made a point.
So as I was saying, we have our international partners coming in to support these universities. For example, it's been supported by China. It's been supported by China. So China Phase 2 project is almost complete. It's almost complete.
I think the regulator's pitch is different from the operator's pitch.
No, but that is the issue. So we are determined to reach our 40% gross station enrollment ratio by 2030. So we are doing much more. We are coming up with open university, which will grant access to the citizenry, those who want to advance in their education. We are coming with the open university as well. I mean, it's been on the drawing board for a while, and we are ensuring that we start the process and then putting structures in place to begin the open university as well. And again, when we talk about these universities, I mean, the focus is to reach the 60-40 percentage in favor of sciences also. So currently we are doing 43-57 in favor of humanities. We are doing 43-57 in favor of humanity. So we believe that when this university starts, at least we will increase our quota in terms of the sciences as well. So gender parity, we are doing 0.95. So we are almost reaching perfection. And when you look at the enrollment ratio, the enrollment at the senior high school, I mean, this year, more female students have enrolled more than the male students. So
there was always a deficit in the science in the SHS program.
In terms of the sciences?
Yeah.
Well,
for females, for instance.
For now, I can tell you that more females have even enrolled in the sciences.
No, but we're talking about the pipeline issues.
Yes, so we are creating a lot of pipelines. That is why we are even dealing with the pre-engineering program to grant access to people without science background to also access engineering program at the tertiary space. So we are piloting this in 3 of our universities, UMaT. We are piloting it also at Pentecost University, and we are looking at Kumasi Technical University. So these are programs that we've put in place to really get to our target. Yes.
I'm going to open the floor now. I brought the presenter here, so questions can be addressed to her or to any members on the panel. But I took very much to heart Professor Aziato's comment about making haste slowly. And you see, one of the motivating factors for this project has been how policy is made. So when people with non-science background getting into engineering and all of that, as far as I know, maybe it was discussed in GTech, but there was not really a national discussion. It was the fiat of somebody. And this is how it has occurred. And this is part of the worry, because then you get to the quality issues for those who are teaching, even those who qualify to come in. Somebody has got A in mathematics and you are teaching them and you find that their understanding of some of the concepts are problematic. So I think that we were talking about both access, quality, and sustainability. And I think resource is an issue. And you did mention the partners, but partners flip-flop. There was a time when there was no support to higher education. Maybe we've gone past that period now. But to really plan your system on what Korea or China will offer, it does not look like sustainability to me. And it is looking at what resources you have. And like Madam here said, what do we have? What more can we do with it? Perhaps sometimes using technology better rather than the brick and wall institutions may also get you to your goal. And more critically, and I think that is what the reviewer was commenting, how do we feed the linkages? Because we cannot divorce what is happening in the universities with our aspirations to be food self-sufficient, etc. So these programs, how are they getting into some of those issues so that we're not, because part of the problem is that we're creating new universities and there's no sufficient differentiation among them. So what is the value of just bringing more universities so that we are producing more of the same? And at the end of the day, the students cannot find employment if in the process, nothing is being done also to transform the society and the economy. Please, the floor is open. Yes, Mr. Wa, SD Dobo. Navrongo, sorry, hey, I have to be careful. I don't get.
Yes. So thank you very much. And thank you all for the opportunity. I would love to direct my question to the regulator, but I would also invite.
Today the regulator is here.
Yes, the regulator is here. I would like to also invite my colleague VC to comment on it briefly. So definitely we are looking at three-pronged issues of access, quality, and sustainability. And I'm sure government's framework is surely cuts for these areas of interest. And that's why it is possible to even think of adding universities or increasing, because it's a framework policy for that. And I see the regulator expanding the understanding on that. The regulator also ensures that universities that are set up or run programs that are accredited, and the accreditation allows examination of the grounds to be able to meet the requirement for the training. And so if you have a program in engineering in any university, there are certain standards that are required. I want to suspect that when the regulator gets to the ground somewhere where the facilities are very poor, he's not necessarily looking for the same standards as in existing well-endowed universities. And yet the quality is expected to be the same. When these graduates get out and they are seeking jobs, if they are engineers, an engineer from KNUST, an engineer from my university will be looking for a job in a particular industry. They are called engineers. But then when you come to accredit me, you consider that I don't have certain facilities and I'm just starting and you allow me to train, certainly affects quality. The access is satisfied, all right, but the quality is affected. When you also come to accredit and you don't allow me, then the other issue arises because I have less funding. So I need to grow my numbers to get IGF to be sustainable, to at least to exist. So if you don't give me accreditation, and then it becomes difficult for me to operate because by and large, my development hovers around IGF. And the IGF mostly, because we don't have infrastructure, is based on student fees. That is also about numbers. Then I'm not also lucky to have a Korean or a Chinese sponsor. So I am supposed to be a GET fund or if you want to say government baby. And yet I'm looking at that and maybe not much is coming in terms of granting. Now, the key thing is, if you take my example, the University of Technology and Applied Sciences, way in the north, I have students traveling from Accra to enroll, maybe because they don't have access coming down all the way to the north. Otherwise, I am not a choice because I don't have much. That you can do to enable me keep that student present in my institution. That second year, he doesn't go away. And also that when he completes or she completes, can compete well, is to have me resourced. And the avenue is GET Fund. This little GET Fund that is existing in my campus also stalls. So my challenges are myriad. And when I hear another technology university getting close to me, it looks like I am dying. There is serious fear. That's what I have. This will result in human capital flight straight because the environment does not encourage even those who are there. And as VC said, because there's no infrastructure for accommodation of staff, when you bring a professor there and the family is located elsewhere, he's looking at getting nearer the family. So when you establish another university that is related to mine and he has opportunity, he will move away. What do I do? Where do we stand? Thank you.
Well, you then have to be noting those that concerns me.
Well, thank you very much. I think there are many issues that we can discuss under this particular topic. But my take is that expansion does not necessarily mean creation of new institutions. And I come with the bias of the challenges that I faced at UHAS, that expansion does not necessarily mean creation of new universities. The Vice Chancellor just alluded to the number of schools that by law we're supposed to have. UHAS is one of the universities where the Act actually specifies the schools that we're supposed to have. We're supposed to have 8 schools and 3 institutes, which makes it 11 academic units. As we speak now, only 1 has been completed. The second one is almost completed, and they were both funded through the Chinese grant. The ones that are being funded by GET Fund, the School of Public Health, and our School of Allied Health Sciences, for the last 12 years, are still uncompleted. I mean, the Allied Health Sciences building is still in the ground. So we don't have to create new universities to expand access. Yes, I know that if you are closer to certain communities that are deprived, it changes the whole dynamics. I mean, whole has changed just because of UHAS. I mean, everybody knows that. If you have 1,000 faculty, 1,000 staff, about 350 academic staff. The city changes. So everybody wants to have a university within their enclave because of all the positive things that it brings. But I think we need to hasten slowly. The other issue has been, at the risk of, flogging it over and over again, has been the whole issue of mission creep. In our era, we had UHAS and UNER in Sunyani, University of Energy and Natural Resources. Go and see what they are doing now. They've gotten into health sciences. They want to set up a medical school. They have even started law. And I was on GTech board, and I was criticized very much for speaking against it. Why? Because it got to a point they couldn't survive. They were doing engineering and other programs which many students within that area would prefer to go to KNUST for. So they needed to survive. They needed students. So they started nursing, they started lab sciences. And so now they've become an omnibus kind of institution. If you go and put another one in Kintampo, I can assure you that Kintampo and Sunyani, if they are supposed to compete, Kintampo will die. I'm not a doomsayer, but that is the reality on the ground. And I know that you are pushing for Kintampo because of the Ministry of Health institution that has been there. They also want a medical school. Everybody wants a medical school. It's as if that's the only program we can create. So we need to look at these issues very, very critically. And even, Madam Moderator, even for the South African examples that you have given, I don't believe that the two programs that they are talking about require new universities. Why can't you have a new school focusing on policing and whatever in one of the bigger universities? You see, so we are hiving off. Whenever we hived off one campus, then it becomes a new university. Now Mampong, which is part of EEW, is now being hived off to become another university. The overhead costs and once you hive off and you get a vice chancellor, a pro vice chancellor, a registrar, the costs of running those places is just astronomical. So we need to really, really, really reflect. Yes, we need to expand access, but it doesn't necessarily mean creating a new institution. For me, that is my point. There are many other issues that can go on and on and on with, but we don't have to create new universities.
Thank you. I have two short points to make. The first one is that the paper could benefit from looking at the broader environment of universities. Broader environment. First of these is some account of the relation between the public university expansion and the private university expansion. I know that your focus was on the public universities, but some background awareness of what is happening privately, it would be relevant, I think, to getting a deeper understanding of your points. Similarly, if you had spent a bit of time commenting on the development in the pre-university environment, that will make the discussion of public universities much more realistic. So two short points, perhaps you might want to take into account. But my main point is a very short one. And that we should all of us stop take a deep breath and think, what do we mean by university? What are universities for? We assume that we're all in agreement. But from what I hear, not just here, but all over, there are different conceptions of university. And I think if we don't stop to think and agree what we're talking about, then the discussion is going to end up nowhere. Thank you.
Yes. You mean you are forcing me to make a comment? These days, I don't talk about Sabasa. No, I have been reflecting on everything being said. Earlier on, I wanted to comment on you made a statement that the whole process of reform is often not based on any wide consultation. And I wanted to pick on that. I agree with you entirely, which is indeed what prompted us to develop this project. I've seen, as I listened to the presentation earlier about all the reforms that we've been through and all the different initiatives that we've introduced at different points in time, it occurred to me that I do not recall at any given time a wide discussion of the issues by any active group of stakeholders. We've seen over the years the announcement of a new university coming, the conversion of polytechnics into universities. We've seen all of these things happen, but never has there been any proper consultation and with a view to finding the best solutions to the problems that we are dealing with. Today, we are confronted with the challenging access to higher education. And so we are trying to solve the problem of higher education. We've chosen one approach. The one approach is create more universities with every occasion that you can find. Create more universities. Turn every institution that you can find into a university. And as we do it, we find that it is leading to other problems. The quality problems have not been properly addressed. The sustainability issue has not been properly addressed. We did think some time ago that by allowing private universities, we will be dealing with the access challenge without using the public purse for that. Today, have we analyzed that to see whether we've been able to achieve our objectives? And if we haven't, what can we do? What can we do to make private universities generate more access for poorer households, for example? We haven't done that. And yet we are creating more universities. We all know that the decision to create universities is driven more by politics than anything else. It's the politics that makes it attractive. It's a political option. Indeed, most reforms in Ghanaian education, from basic through secondary through tertiary, are driven by politics. You have one group, whether they are teachers or they are parents or they are lecturers or they are politicians, express some misgivings about something, and then it leads to a reform. And that reform, then we do it for a few years, and then another group is not happy with it. That is the problem with education. It's the way we have allowed self-interest to drive everything. And that self-interest is a reflection of the politics that we have today. Thank you. I'm sure you are regretting calling me to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam. I think I would want to touch on the quality. Now, the issue is that we've increased the number of SHS students, which is good, but we've failed to, expand the infrastructures in the universities, which can easily accommodate them. What this implies is that the staff-student ratio is affected. From, some time now, UMAT, we were, at 1:18 students. And I think that is the norm from our regulators. Now we have moved to 1:38. So now where is the quality? We have a regulatory, policy that for engineering, it should be 1:18. But now we're moving 1:38. Some are at 1:65, and so on and so forth. Where is the quality? Now, another thing that we are confronted with is the clearance to employ. Clearance to employ. We're not having that. People go on retirement, you are unable to replace them. People leave, you're unable to replace them. That is why there was a question from one of the, which the presenter talked about from the staff, that why are people dying? Have we found out why people are dying? The workload is killing everybody. And then the young guys, when they move out for their PhD, they don't come back. Those who even have the PhD, when they go on visit, they don't come back. So we really need to, look at the condition of service, look at student-staff ratio, look at accommodation. And so now the universities are forced, because funding is not coming. For the last 4 years, for example, we have had 200,000 from Get Fund. So when I heard the regulator talking about Get Fund, I don't know what entity is that. Anyway, I went here.
I'm sure you say you don't know what Get Fund is. It's Ghana Education Trust.
You want to assure him that it's aligned.
It's Ghana Education Trust Fund. Yes, to maybe start from I think the earlier speakers made comments, so I'll try and respond to those that I can, and I will leave the rest. So for student-teacher ratio, yes, I can assure my professor that in few days' time, government will give clearance for employment of lecturers across the tertiary education space. So I can assure you that maybe by close of the month, you hear something. So just rest assured that the student-teacher ratio will go down. Okay, have I answered you? Okay, so, well, I'm not sure. I'm not a politician. I'm a technocrat. So, yes, so we have correspondence from Ministry of Finance to get to the tertiary education space to have some staff employed. So that will be done as early as possible. Okay, so talking about programs, yes, we are aware that we need to ensure quality. So we are trying our best to do that by activating our accreditation procedures. And what we try doing is that when your program expires and you are now coming for accreditation, we need an evidence of tracer study on your students. The students we have produced, we would like to see an evidence of tracer studies on them before we reaccredit your program. You cannot continue to train and then leave them out there. Let's see how they are faring, yes, in the world of work before you can continue running the program. So we are activating our regulatory measures to ensure that you don't train and dump into this the broader pools and expect that things are happening to them anyhow. So again, looking at the issue of campus issues, where some universities do not have students, some have basically aligning programs and all this. Yes, so we are with a new regulatory measure for admission, that is the CAAS. centralized admission process system. The CAAS is coming to being, and we intend regulating the way admission is done at the universities. So when you get to some technical universities, you see that technical university is offering engineering. Okay, let me make an example of Cape Coast Technical University that the presenter earlier on alluded to. So when you get to Cape Coast Technical University, you see that the university is almost empty. It's almost, and I was there a couple of weeks ago. You see that university is almost empty. Why? Because the students, the idea of technical university is yet to go down well with our citizens. So the idea of CAAS is that when you are going to apply for, maybe apply to go to university, you are to make some choices. You choose a technical university, you choose a public university, and you choose a private university. Then the courses will be rationalized. So in a situation where somebody feels like he has qualified to do engineering, maybe at Cape Coast Technical University, but he's offered a program at maybe, I'm not to belittle any program, maybe archival studies at University of Ghana, but he has qualified to do engineering at Cape Coast Technical University. So in that case, we prefer that student move to Cape Coast Technical University to do the engineering. So it's a way of rationalizing the admission procedures across the public universities in the country. So we are careful and we are mindful of what is happening, and we are aware, and we are taking steps to really resolve those issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe I just comment on the CK Tedam Vice Chancellor's dilemma or problems that we all face. So we are all aware that Get Fund projects, most of them have stalled. If you're not lucky to have a donor come to your aid, then you are struggling. Some students come the first year, they offer them a program. The second year, they leave and start another program in another university. How do we navigate these? Professor Dapo mentioned the fact that expansion is not creating new universities. And I think that's a profound statement. So because we are in the space and we live the reality is a reality. The fact that some new universities are struggling. And even if you have the lecture room, the students do not want that program or do not want to come to that. Unfortunately, some Ghanaians have attached some prestige to some certificates from some universities. So what he just said, even if you give him engineering as so and so, the person will not go because the person prefers to have a certificate from this other prestigious university, etc. Now, let's also not forget the role of the professional regulatory bodies. So for example, we have 100 quota for medicine. They do these quotas based on your infrastructure, your faculty, and the field for practice. Now, I said we should journey slowly because some of the campuses, the new campuses, we are having challenges with internet, ICT infrastructure. Some of the new campuses, we are having problems with road. Our university is one typical example. Some of us, yes, the road access. Some of us are having challenges with the field where the students will go for practice, both on campus skills or laboratory space and the supposed equipment thereof. And of course, for us, the hospitals. So at the end, you roll out first year students, the curriculum, depending on the program, would have some field components, but the field is not ready. So the issue about quality is so important for some of us. Now, when the regulator, the professional regulator issues come in, becomes more complex because the students will write professional exam or be licensed to practice at the end of their training. And so, like the Vice Chancellor said, the engineer from KNUST and from CK Tadam, for us, the doctor from UHAS and the doctor from Kolebu, they're all going to be inducted into practice. If I go to the hospital, I'm sick. The first question will not be, please, where were you trained? I'm sick, so I need somebody to take care of me. So we cannot have half-baked professionals, unfortunately. And this is a serious issue that's made me say, let us journey slowly. If we have the facility for training, I'm not even talking about faculty accommodation and other things. I'm only talking about what it takes to train that person. And then the high students faculty ratio that my brother from UMass mentioned. Sincerely speaking, apart from the salary, Mr. Regulator, the allocation to the universities now, we can't do anything with it. Either it doesn't come or it's too small. So without the students' fees, we cannot run the university. That is the thrust of the issue. And therefore, if you are on our seat and things come to you to approve, you approve based on the pocket. And so we have to use part-timers, adjunct faculty, etc., to manage the system. But I want to plead that if that is not happening, then it should happen, to bring in some adjuncts and part-timers to upload the regular so you don't break their backs. Thank you.
Yes, so the fees, yes, we have increased fees by 15%. I'm sure you are aware of 15% increment of fees across the public universities. This is to add on to what you already have. And again, we expect well, Parliament has increased fees, not me. Parliament has increased fees by 15%. So we are also looking for opportunities where there will be institutionalized scholarships for needy but brilliant students who will not be able to afford these fees. So you may have a Vice Chancellor scholarship somewhere that you can use to finance some of these things. You may institute other forms of scholarship opportunities which students can access, and then I have access to university education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I also want to pick up from where you left it to say that it's really a chicken and egg situation, because whatever we ask for, the fees will be passed on to the student. So now, we are saying, even where it's a spec, some students are not able to make it. We are going to, and because we are asking for, the resources and so on and so forth, we have to now ask the student to pay. So we are going back to that same situation where it is going to be difficult for some. How much are universities able to raise to have scholarship packages? My university has a scholarship package, but it's reaching very small numbers of students. So you still have a whole lot of them who cannot be covered by that scholarship. So that is my concern there. But really, again, from the regulators end, I wonder, maybe VCG, Vice Chancellor Ghana knows the new regulations, new directions that come from government. For example, regarding some of the things you raised, I just escaped me, but yes, central, yes, that one. So if Vice Chancellors, and again, I think VC raised the issue of how my I, a parent, want my ward to go to a particular university to read a particular program, and then the government says, no, you can't go there. I will put you where I think you have to be. So that, well, I think the student will also respond to that. But again, really, what I mean is, if some of these directives come down to the level of the implementer, and if a thorough engagement is held between the various actors, I think it will work better than just, coming straight down, up, down, without that engagement. That really is my point. Thank you.
So I confirm that it's not a top-down, a series of engagements have been done on this. I also confirm that VCG, we've discussed it at length. At the last meeting, we are not on board yet. The technical universities are here, are piloting it. So we want to take our time, journey slowly, study the data and the outcome and all that before we would take a decision. As of now, we have not we have not jumped the bus. We are still at the door looking inside to see how the bus is going. But today's discussion is on CAPS. But let us want to say briefly that from proprietors' comments, I wish, that is what I said, the local engagement and co-ownership of that new university. I know that is a government in power, in quotes, that will give birth to a particular university at a particular time. But my advocacy is the fact that the owners must be from both sides, if it's 2, 3 sides or 20 sides we are looking at, so that if one government is not there, I mean the mother government is not there, another one comes. That new one will still see this child as his or her child. This tagging the university with a particular regime, we should not go there. It won't help us in any way. If not, the universities will continue to suffer and suffer. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, at the mention of CAPS, I asked myself, what is the level of engagement at our level as a student? Madam VC just mentioned that some engagement has been made at the university level, university administrators level. But of course, when the students are going, when they apply, they are going to be part of a community which we would partly manage. And so how they enter also is of concern to us. So I think this will be an opportunity to maybe formally tell director that if some engagement hasn't been made yet, we would want to be part of that conversation and see how we can contribute. Because then at the idea conception stage, we are able to make inputs. Then, of course, when it finally comes out, we cannot see anywhere that the student community were not part of the conversation. Having said that, I would, if you allow me, I would also want to touch on the universities that are not attractive. Over the years, probably maybe we have not looked at the packaging of these universities. And so you would have universities that do not even run adverts. You have the universities would be there, and in the last 10 years, you will not even see any special communique from the university to the general public that even attracts students. Say I'm in Accra and I want to maybe pursue a program in the north, or probably, or maybe we may also want to look at some international collaborations as well. If we have Cape Coast Technical University collaborates with an university outside on a particular program, that can probably attract the students to go. And we may want to highlight, probably, we may want to highlight that. Then special scholarship opportunities that we would want to look at. It comes to the point of priority. Then for this one, political leaders are not here, but probably maybe I may want to highlight it because, of course, it will get to them. We have to prioritize in terms of national budgets, and we are the bone of the conversations about funding, and they provide the funding for the university infrastructure that we need. So maybe GTech could pass that message to them that when our political leaders are doing the budgets, we should prioritize what comes to education. Then we only have a conversation around access. We only have a conversation around the infrastructure that the universities require. Because of course, if they prioritize and they give us more money, they give the university administrators more money, we'll be able to do the things that we say we intend to do. Thank you.
This is the hopeful new generation. Prof. Aite, you said you wanted to make a point. And if there are any contributions from this side of the room, I'll take it now. Hey.
Thank you very much. I wanted to comment on the GAAS as was presented to us. The first time I heard of it in relation to Ghana was when it was presented in the Public University Bill, which we kicked against. At the time, the explanation given was that students had to struggle to find money to pay for application forms from different universities. It was so costly for them. So by centralizing it, it made it cheaper for students. That was the argument that the NCT at the time provided. Today, what I'm hearing is that it helps to rationalize the distribution of students among the institutions. There are many other arguments one can put against it. There are many other arguments. What I don't understand is why something like this, important as it is, cannot be discussed more widely. Why can't, it's not a matter of GTech versus VCG. No, it is not, it's something that goes well beyond VCG. It's a very, very important thing that speaks to the independence of the universities, that speaks to academic freedom, and speaks to differentiation. Why can't students have a choice? And why can't universities compete to offer students much better products? The growth and development of universities is driven by initiative, is driven by vision. Why do we want to use legislation to take away vision and drive universities? Why can't we allow universities to grow in a manner that allows them to compete with the best in the world? Why do we want to limit how far our universities can go simply on the back of politics? This casting, I've heard the arguments, but I haven't seen any evidence it works far better than what we've been doing. If what we've been doing is not broken, why do we have to mend it? Unless there's another interest, unless there's a strong evidence somewhere that the CAS will work better than what we have. I haven't seen that evidence. Thank you.
Are there any, oh, okay.
Thank you so much. I'm from the Technical University. And this goes to Professor Yaira. I would say no to expanding or establishing new universities. Looking at our technical university, Koforidia Technical University, where I completed from 2017 till date, there is this facility that was started from previous government. So now it's still uncompleted. And we are focusing on building or establishing new universities. Looking at Takoradi Technical University, Kumasi Technical University, where we have medical laboratory students or departments. These are new departments that we introduced into the university. but then we don't have facilities for our practical activities. Why then are we focusing on establishing new universities than to continue building on the old or existing universities that we have?
Thank you so much for putting me on the spot, madam. I enjoyed the presentation by our the author of our background. My take is this expansion of universities, I think it should be convoluted into expansion of quality, expansion of infrastructure, and not just a function of universities. We must actually target expansion of knowledge, like our second reviewer was pointing so much out to us. But as someone who has been in the private university landscape, I think that which we want to achieve with this expansion, we have so many private universities in our country. We even used an instrument called mentoring, so that those who are already experienced will hold the hands of these private universities to learn how to do things properly. They are around, and we must use their presence to expand the knowledge that we want, expand access, expand quality in this our country. But I've been quiet about it because we know that in this program, in this project, we have private universities issues coming, so it might not be appropriate now. But let's just look at how through public-private partnership, we could use the existent 94 or something private universities in our country to help expand access, quality in our tertiary education landscape. Thank you.
Make some closing remarks. So yes, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm grateful to be invited even to this forum. I just wanted to say something before maybe I give my closing remarks. I want to add my voice to the last but two speakers on this centralized admission process or whatever, and remind us, at least let's see what's happening in the SHS system. How now it's almost like agents and politicians have taken over that process, and we're raising, or I mean, it's virtually strengthen the private secondary schools, and virtually some quality has been affected in the public secondary schools. Bringing this to the universities, and like the first speaker was talking about, it cannot only be at the GTech VCG level. Let's bring it down to all stakeholders, all players. Even the unions should have a contribution to this discussion so that we get the best out of it. Otherwise, we'll end up with despondent graduates all over the place, and maybe we will just have the private universities doing a lot more than this. But I think my comment on this discussion is that it looks like all round the discussions have been really wonderful from this presentation. Planning for expansion is so important and critical, that it is not just about creating a new university and getting extra costs on the government and everything, but it's about monitoring what is already there, strengthening the structures and getting the best out of them. Then we can actually go on to do more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please give it to Mr. Osu.
And my closing thoughts would be that a lot has been said. I would want us to look at where do we go from here. From this very conference room, I would want to see probably maybe the regulator take some immediate action with respect to the many issues that have been, said in this room. And the ones that must go to the political actors, they are not here, I've said, but anyway, anyhow, it must get to them. Otherwise, it'll be pointless for us to gather next year to sing the same song when we can't have results. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, there will be a policy brief that will be developed from this presentation. So that is what targets the policymakers. Yes, madam.
Thank you very much.
The regulator will have
We'll
the
do
last
last,
word.
yes, that's the last words. Thank you. So, new university means that I may lose one of my staff, or two, or three, because of the opportunity to be HOD or acting dean or dean in that new university. New university means that we should have the drivers prepared before the passengers come in. If not, it's the same people who are breaking their backs that's going to be circulated, and those left behind will continue to break their back. And when they get there, they'll also be looking for IGF. So before we realize the issues have become more complex. I also wish to re-emphasize the need for stakeholder buy-in, especially the local community, our traditional leaders and other people from that local community who are even in the diaspora. They may contribute a thing or two to the growth of the university. I am also concerned about quality assurance, quality issues, as in the skill development of the particular program that is going to be run in that particular university. And therefore, we need to make sure that we have the ingredients to bring out the best that we can be trained. And lastly, I also wish that advocates or the forces behind whatever expansion, whether it's a campus or a new university, whatever it is, should be from all sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Presenter.
Do I need a comment? Last comment. Okay, just to say that it was a good opportunity for us. We, higher education practitioners, insiders, we don't seem to take notice of some of the issues therein, but this background paper has given me and has opened my eyes more to what we are actually practicing. So I think it was a good opportunity for me to have been part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Monsieur Regulator, the man of the moment.
Thank you. I'm also grateful for the opportunity. But I think that new university means access to education in low-income areas of our country. New university means inclusivity for all. And new university means boosting economic activities in those deprived areas of our country. And new university means expanding facilities in already existing universities and making way forward. So, we have all engaged, and we will continue to engage stakeholders. NUGS has been engaged when we talk about GAAS. We have engaged NUGS. Maybe you were not invited. A lot of stakeholders were duly engaged as far as this GAAS is concerned, but it's not the focus of our discussion. The focus of our discussion is about expansion and access and quality and sustainability. For sustainability means that government is still paying salary of lecturers. Government continue to pay book and research allowance for lecturers. Government continue to provide teaching and learning materials. Government continue to resource laboratories. And then government continue to look at the deficit that we have in this country in terms of training. Out of the 20,000 engineers that are needed in 2023, Universities are able to provide only 6,000 of them. Hence the need to establish additional institutions to cater for this deficit. We will continue to ensure quality by looking at campus accreditation. We'll continue to ensure quality by doing program accreditation, ensuring that programs that are due for reaccreditation, universities present to us tracer study before we proceed to accredit them. Again, we are ensuring that most of the infrastructure in our institutions will be disability friendly, and everybody should be able to access every infrastructure, no matter how is able to learn. Yes, so new university means that we'll continue to get grants from our international partners to support us and expand. And we're going to get scholarship from Get Fund. We're going to get scholarship from GNPC to sponsor needy but brilliant students. Yes, so new university means that access to education and access to tertiary education for all, that will lead to overall economic development of this country. Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Can we give our presenters a round of applause? Let me say that it has been an enjoyable morning having you all here. Many issues have been aired, very critical issues, and I think we do not say it lightly. I think one of the issues we are talking about is policy coherence. How do you use some policies or some initiatives to also push others? How could we have used the free SHS to stimulate the enrollment in technical institutions? For instance, some of the issues that are coming up, we have a lot of policies and many of them run in parallel. They do not really crisscross and really form critical masses. And I think that we need to listen to those who are also on the ground running institutions. So somebody was just saying, create a new university. I lose my head of department, right? It's an opportunity. Do we think about these kind of negative externalities, which also occur? You put something in the environment, it's supposed to strengthen what is there. And what it does is that it weakens what you already have without pushing you further. So I really think that the issue is not whether we want to increase access or not. We have all agreed that we need to increase access. We need to expand equity. The issue is how we do it, how best to do it. And I thought that Mr. Owusu made a very interesting point. We are so used to traditional forms of assistance without even considering new things. Think about what an affiliation. India, for instance, has very good institutes of technology. Some of these places, if you put them together and you begin to design your TVET systems more effectively, you will find that parents now will be pushing their children to go to the TVET programs and entering into these institutes of technology. So I think that we should also be brave to try out new things, that everything is not just the bricks and mortar, but also how we reinforce our systems and make them stronger. Otherwise, we are throwing away resources. So here you are, you were talking about the fact that we don't even have enough data on retention. So somebody goes for a year, CAPS or somebody has given them admission, they'll go for a year to another place. And after the second year, they will abandon it and go. So they've wasted resources and all of those things. We need to really think about this because we have this stop-go kind of development in this country. How do we bring stakeholders on board? How do we ensure that whatever we are planning will be taken on, whoever the mother or the father is, that there would not be perpetual stepchildren and some children who are not even permitted to enter the house. So these are serious issues, and we have gone through a number of other pressing issues. We have looked at issues of the conversion of polytechnics to technical universities. We've looked at funding. We've looked at the operation of the GET Fund. We have looked at management, governance and management of our universities. Today, we've looked at expansion. We have another policy dialogue coming on state-university relations and another one on the private universities. So we've tried to do a kind of a scan. And if you look at the issues that are coming up, whether it's about quality, whether it's about access, funding, sustainability, we are all committed to ensuring that we make the best use of our resources, we fulfill our constitutional obligations, and in the process, we also advance Ghana's development. And I trust that the conversation this morning has helped us a bit along the way. So please, before you leave, make sure you filled in your evaluation. I think somebody is going around sorting out transport arrangements, and then there is also lunch provided for you. So we want to thank, and there were people online, I shouldn't forget them. There were people who have been joining us online. We want to thank all of you for your attention. And for those of you who have come out from out of town, we wish you a safe trip back home. Thank you very much. No. Because you were threatening to go to your girl funeral, Professor Tego will give us.
It's all right. I'm supposed to give closing remarks. Hello. But I think we had two fantastic closing remarks. One from the Deputy Director General of GTech. I said you gave fantastic closing remarks. But I'm still talking to him because you made some very serious statements here. That for a moment I thought you were a politician rather than a technocrat. But I think we've had a fantastic time. The main question has been expansion for what? And various reasons have been proffered here. For me, the most interesting one is that of politics for votes. But on behalf of the president of the academy, let me thank all of you, those who prepared and delivered the background paper, the reviewers, the panelists. I think this has been one of the most active, panel discussions we've had with some very, very solid contributions. We have two more of these dialogues to hold. Two issues from the ground there. Prosperity made a clear point about sometimes how widespread or how widely we consult before we make decisions. And that is very, very crucial. It raised a question but I don't want to answer because it's not for me, it's for GTech to answer. The other question came from Professor Akila Pasoya, who said we should ask ourselves again, what is a university? The original question was raised by the now Saint John Henry Newman, who has a big book on it. And you do well. This is a 19th century book. It's fantastically written, and everybody should read